Here's a really quick look at a few of my favorite new features in the FabFilter Pro-C3. I'm not going to go over everything about the plugin, just a few things that I thought were interesting about the update. So the first thing is that the Sidechain now has an internal host sync feature. So there's a pulse generated within the plugin that you can choose all of these different time divisions with, and then there's a host trigger offset. So if it's all the way to the left, if this is set to quarter note, you would get an eighth note, and if it's all the way to the right, you would get a half note. So you're getting either double or half of what the original time division is. And then the length kind of acts like a swing. So the further you go to the right with the slider, the later it triggers the internal pulse. So the coolest thing about this is that you can actually automate this host trigger offset. So right now I've just got a simple 4-chord piano progression, and I'm sending it to this return track that has a delay and a reverb to kind of create a pad texture behind the piano. This instance of Pro-C3 is just to beef it up. Yeah, let's try just automating this quickly, like so, just to make it go from a quarter note to an eighth note in a linear fashion like that. So you could do similar things with the tremolo, but I think you get a different kind of flavor when you're doing it with Sidechain, because the envelope shape is completely different. Like if we take a look at the shapes that we get here for tremolo, is you can have this sort of like fast attack and soft decay, which would create kind of like a plucky sound. Just okay, get out of here. The sine is probably closest. Anyway, I think it's just a really simple and fast way to try out creative sidechaining effects. The other cool thing about the host sync sidechain is that you can very clearly see how the different models are affecting your audio, because the signal is the same every single time, right? For example, if we look at this versatile model, you can see how the signal just changed there. More smooth. I mean, mix with your ears and not your eyes, obviously, but I just think that this visual representation can maybe help you choose the right model for the material or what you're trying to achieve with compression. And then TTM, which this is my favorite thing. It's like, what do they call it? To the max, which is basically like OTT. It's upwards and downwards compression. And the threshold acts like a target level, and the knee blends between the upwards and downwards compression. It sounds pretty ridiculous on piano, but it does sound really cool on drums. It's super useful for getting like percussion to stick out in like a trailer mix or something where everything is super loud and sausaged. Okay, so here's an example of a track that I'm actually working on. I'm using a preset, the kernel aggressor, which uses the TTM model. Let's listen with it bypassed first. So this is just on the low percussion bus here. I'm also using Uber Loud, which is kind of like another version of OTT created by Boom. This is pretty nice. But the Pro-C3's TTM model compression is adding something completely different. So let's listen to it with it now. Without it again. So it's just making it really stick out in that mix a lot. Anyway, I'm sure there's probably lots more to discover in the Pro-C3 update, but those so far are my favorite things about it. Cheers.